Mr. Speaker, one of the things that the American people are really upset about right now is gasoline is $3.50 some cents. In some parts of the country, it's up close to $4 a gallon. And the President of the United States and his administration, for whatever reason, is obstructing our ability to become energy independent. On February the 17th, U.S. District Judge Martin Feldman, who gave the Department of the Interior information on the deep water drilling in the Gulf of Mexico earlier, he gave the administration 30 days to rule 7 deep water drilling permits okay, to approve them. And he overturned the ban that was put in place in June of 2010 that allowed the government to arbitrarily impose a moratorium that would cause irreparable harm to businesses along the Gulf Coast. In fact, it'll cost as many as 24,000 jobs. But the thing about it that really concerns me is we have the ability to become energy independent within a relatively short period of time. Everybody would like to see us move toward alternative sources of energy and clean burning fuels to help the environment. I don't think anybody opposes that. The problem is, in the process, do we want to become more energy dependent on the rest of the world? Now, we get between 25 and 30% of our energy from the Middle East. And anybody who's been watching the news at all knows that there's a war going on in Libya. Egypt is in turmoil. Bahrain is having problems. There's potential problems in Jordan and in Saudi Arabia. Now, if something goes wrong over there, and Iran is trying to undermine us by, under the covers, doing everything they can to stop us from getting energy and to put us in a trick bag, if the Suez Canal is bottled up, if the Straits of Hormuz are closed or the Persian Gulf's closed, we're going to lose or could have substantially delayed as much as 30% of our energy. And you can imagine what that would do to this place. And the prohibition against drilling in the Gulf of Mexico takes away about 11% of our energy. And the President won't allow us to have permits in that area. Now, he says that he's concerned about it because of the environmental damage that was done by the oil spill down there when the derrick blew up. What isn't said is that the tankers that come from the Middle East and from South America spill more oil than that environmental tragedy that took place in the Gulf spilled. People don't realize that. Now, we can drill in an environmentally safe way, and we can do it in a number of places in this country and move rapidly toward energy independence. We can drill up in Alaska, in the ANWR, and people say in the environmental community, well, we're worried about the bears up there and the small animals and so forth. I've been up there. Does anybody have any idea how big Alaska is? It's 3.5 times the size of Texas. And there's only 500,000, 600,000 people that live in Alaska. And all the rest of that is wilderness except where we're drilling. And if we drill in the ANWR, we could produce a great amount of oil and energy that would make us less dependent on Saudi Arabia, the Middle East, and on the communist dictator in Venezuela, Mr. President Chavez. And so we are not doing what we should to make sure that we provide energy for this country and make sure that the cost of energy is low so that people can afford it, so employers can afford to hire more people and produce more goods that can be sold here and around the world. And the President, for whatever reason, is blocking this. I just can't understand why. But I think the American people need to know that, and they need to be talking to the President, the administration, and other congressmen and senators about this, because we're going to see if everything goes south over in the Middle East, or if the President of Venezuela decides to cut us off, we're going to see oil prices go up, 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 and the cost of gasoline go to $3, $4, $5, $6 a gallon. It's already over $3.50. And if it gets to $6 a gallon, it's going to have a devastating impact on this economy. In fact, it already is having a devastating impact. If you talk to 18-wheeler truckers, the people that haul goods and services all across this country, they'll tell you that they can't afford to keep their prices for trucking our goods and services low if the price of diesel fuel goes above $4 by very much a gallon. And yet it is above $4 a gallon right now, and it's trending higher. And if we have a problem in the Middle East or in the Gulf or in South America, wherever we get oil, it's going to have a tremendous impact not only on our ability to buy gasoline at the pump, to provide oil for heating, for our electrical companies to provide electricity to keep our lights on, but it's going to cost us more when we go to Walmart, when we go to the grocery store, wherever we go to buy goods, foods, and services, because the truckers who truck those goods across the country are going to have to pay more for their fuel, and they pass that along to the consumer in higher prices. So this has a devastating impact on our economy because we depend too much on foreign oil. Now, another thing I think everybody in this country ought to know, Mr. Speaker, is we have the largest reserves of coal in the world, which could be converted into oil if we use coal to liquid technology, and we could get as many as 5 million barrels of oil a day in the not too distant future. And the amount of oil that we could get out of coal shale is up to 8 trillion barrels of oil. 8 trillion barrels of oil. In North and South Dakota, they just found one of the biggest oil reserves in the whole world that we could use to bring down the price of energy in this country. But we can't drill there because the President and the administration and the Environmental Protection Agency and the Department of Energy is blocking that. Now, I know a lot of people around the country say, well, we've got to be concerned about the environment, and we do. And we ought to be transitioning into these other technologies. But that's going to take 10, 15, 20 years. To get a nuclear plant up takes forever because you have to go through all the permits, all the governmental regulations. Sure, we could get there, but it's going to take time. And in that interim period, we are dependent on fossil fuels, and we're getting those from the Middle East and South America and from the Gulf of Mexico when we can drill there. So it's extremely important, Mr. Speaker, that we pay attention to this and send a very strong signal to the administration that it's time for us to get on with drilling here in the United States and becoming energy independent.